Safety. I'd like to start by just introducing myself. I'm Gillian Bosman. I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee of Community Safety and Cultural Affairs. And I'm now going to allow for members online to introduce themselves.
Morning, Deirdre Bartman.
Good morning, Chair, Phil and Christians.
The chairperson and officials, members, good morning, Dan Plato.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to our procedural officer, Mr. Wasim Matthews, who is joining us and who makes sure that this committee is able to function as effectively and as efficiently as we always do, and also to Ms. Marianne Burgess, who is assisting Mr. Matthews. We're also joined by Mr. Siraj Hassam, who is supporting us with the technology and making sure that people on YouTube are able to also see the proceedings. Mr. Matthews, have we received any apologies from any members?
Good morning, Chairperson and members. There have been no apologies received.
Thank you very much. So we will mark those members not here as absent without an apology. Colleagues, the purpose of today's meeting is the consideration and adoption of the draft committee report on the 2021-2022 annual report of the Department of Community Safety and the Western Cape Liquor Authority. We're also considering and adopting draft documents which outline some of the committee business over the last few weeks. And then we will discuss any actions or recommendations that stem from this meeting. Mr. Matthews, may I ask you to please flight the first item, which is the annual report of the meeting. Sorry, I'm only using one screen, so I'm gonna use your screen to see. Normally I have two screens, but I'm sitting in my living room today. There we go, members. So at the moment, this report is draft. So Mr. Matthews is just removing the word draft, but it's the report on the Standing Committee on Community Safety, Cultural Affairs and Sports. The second page outlines just the standard introduction in terms of what the committee did in the annual report meeting. It also lists the key points from the discussion that we had. May I ask if there are any omissions or additions to page 2?
Chairperson, I'm happy as it stands.
Thank you very much, Honourable Plato. Members, page 3 is a continuation of the discussion, and it also includes public input on the annual report. And then the fourth point deals with the requests for information. Sorry, Mr. Matthews, we're still on page 3. Members, may I ask if there's any omissions or additions that you'd like to add to page 3?
Seems okay.
Very much. We're now on page 4. Mr. Matthews, if we can just go up to the top of page 4. 4.2. I just have a question with regards to that request for information. That report on in terms of the outcomes of the internal investigations of departmental officials linked to the sexual harassment case of the previous Minister of Community Safety. Is it my understanding, or is my understanding correct, that in the meeting the HOD and the Minister indicated that that investigation was conducted by the Department of the Premier through the Central Human Resource Management Department and not by the department themselves. Are we allowed to ask for that in our request to the department, or do we need to ask that through the Department of the Premier? I see Member Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. I do recall the same, that it is with the Department of the Premier. So my suggestion would be that we just rephrase it so that it goes to the relevant department that does the respective investigation. Thank you.
Okay, Member Kama, welcome. We didn't see you earlier. Are you Member Kama?
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, members. Apologies for the delay, Chair. I just wanted to get an understanding on that, Chair. Didn't the department itself have its own investigation on the departmental officials? Was the understanding was that there was a departmental investigation which would have been confirmed by the HOD in the other in the other meetings that would have had during the year?
Not that I recall. If my memory serves me right, and my memory is going to be fuzzy because it's been quite a busy 2 weeks, the response from the department was that all of those investigations were done by the Human Resources Department of the provincial government, which is situated in the Department of the Premier. Any other colleagues, do you remember that part of the meeting differently? Member Christians?
Chair, Chair, I know we spoke about the report, but I think to be safe here, because we are not 100% sure now, we just read in the paper, and I mean, all the stuff that we got about the officials was in the paper. So I believe it should be referred to the Department of the Premier, because, you know, they've done the initial investigation. I also can't recall that there was a departmental investigation. So for just for safety's sake, can we then refer it to the Department of the Premier? Thank you, Chair.
I'm happy with that suggestion. Member Kama, are you happy with that?
That's fine, Chair. Thank you.
Perfect. So that's the one change on page 4. Mr. Matthews, you can turn the text back to black, if possible. Are there any other omissions or additions to the request for informations? Okay, then we now come to the resolutions in terms of the Member Bartman.
Apologies, I wanted to move that we adopt, Chair.
We're not there yet. Sorry, Member Bartman. We're just on the resolutions at the moment. So the committee of the Standing Committee on Community Safety resolved to request the quarterly and annual reports from the City of Cape Town Safety and Security Directorate on its implementation of the Western Cape Safety Plan. The request that the Western Cape Provincial Parliament's Research Unit conduct research on the issuing of permits to scrap yards under the Precious Metal Act of 2005, Act 37 of 2005. Benchmark this process to international best practices and whether or not there is a manner to reclassify copper as a highly regulated metal. And then 5.3 is request the department, request the Western Cape Police Ombudsman to brief the committee on all open investigation cases and the reasons as to why certain cases are not addressed. May I ask colleagues just that if Mr. Matthews, if we can just change the word benchmark, that should be one word. And then I've got just a question on 5.1. Are we, the Western Cape Safety Plan is the safety plan of the Western Cape government. Are we not just asking the City of Cape Town for how they're implementing the LEAP program? Because as far as I understand, that's the one part that the City of Cape Town is involved in as part of the safety plan, because the safety plan is a holistic and transversal document that cuts across all departments in the Western Cape. But the City of Cape Town, as far as I understand it, is currently only involved in the law enforcement advancement program. I saw, okay, there's a thumbs up from Member Bartman. Member Matthews, sorry, Mr. Matthews, can we just change the word plan in this law enforcement advancement plan? I think it's supposed to be program. Member Kama, was that, did you just want to say something?
No, no, I think you have corrected. I also wanted to correct the plan.
Yeah, perfect. Members, are there any other resolutions or, sorry, any other points of clarity or things that needs to be corrected on the resolutions? May I propose one more resolution, Mr. Matthews? I've just made you a member of the committee. I'm not sure why.
I think because there's one permanent member short.
Yes, I think so too, but I don't have that authority. But do I have the authority to add another resolution? Colleagues, with your indulgence, I'd like to propose that the committee congratulates the Department of Community Safety on achieving 99% of its performance targets, and also for once again achieving a clean audit. Colleagues, with that, I now put to you the report in its entirety. May I please ask for a mover of this report? Agbara Bartman.
I move that we adopt with the amendments.
Bye, thank you. I don't know the Afrikaans word for a seconder, but is there a seconder?
Chair, I
Yes.
second.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Seconded by Member Ferlin Christians.
Chairperson,
Yes, Member.
I can't see the hand raise function. It is a plan, not program.
Okay, perfect.
For plan. Okay.
Okay, perfect, members. So just if we can just correct it stands for plan. Members, that report is then duly adopted. We're now going to consider some of the draft documents, and Mr. Matthews is going to pop up those documents, and these were all emailed to members to peruse and to come with their changes. So the first one is the Standing Committee on Community Safety, Cultural Affairs and Sports, and this is the discussion and the minutes of the proceedings of our annual report meeting, where we discussed both the Department of Community Safety and the Western Cape Liquor Authority. The first page deals with attendance. Are there any additions or I just want to check Member Kama. in this meeting, are you an alternate for the permanent member, Member Barnes?
Yes, Chair.
Perfect, just so we know that when we do the minutes for this meeting, we know. Okay, we're all happy with the attendance. The first paragraph just deals with the welcoming. Page 2 then deals with the discussion in terms of how it unfolded. The minister opened the meeting. The HOD then also gave some opening remarks. Then we had a discussion on the Western Cape Liquor Authority's annual report. We then had quite a spirited discussion with members of the public. And one of the members of the public actually made the suggestion that we investigate the possibility of reclassifying copper as a precious metal. We can move down to page 3, member Mr. Matthews. You can see it's Friday. Are there any changes to page 2 or anything that's glaringly incorrect that needs to be corrected? Member Bartman?
Okay, given that the current minutes reflect the annual report, we must just check that the amendments we did to the annual report in both the resolution and the previous request for information is the same in this document, the LEAP and the internal investigation, and I can't remember if there was another one. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So we are now on 5.1 on the resolutions. So Mr. Matthews has already changed that, 5.1. But Mr. Matthews, if we can just go up to the top. If we can just check the request for information. Perfect. Are there any other changes to page 3? I see no hands. We can then move down. The meeting adjourned at 13:20 then. Colleagues, may I please have a mover for the adoption of the minutes? I see Member Bartman.
Chair, I move to adopt.
Thank you very much. May we have a seconder?
I second, Chair. Felon Christians.
Thank you very much, Member Christians. Colleagues, the minutes of that meeting is duly adopted. Mr. Matthews?
Yes, Chairperson, just for the record that the minutes were adopted with amendments.
Yes, sorry, I must be very careful in my language. For the record, the minutes was a move of the minutes was moved by Member Bartman with amendments, and it was seconded by Member Felon Christians. Colleagues, this is then the minutes of our meeting of Friday, the 7th of October. And this was a meeting by the South African Police Services on its capital priority list in response to a letter I wrote on behalf of the committee to the National Commissioner of Police, Commissioner Masemola, and the Commissioner attended that meeting with his entire senior management team. It was quite unfortunate that the provincial colleagues who are closest to us were slightly late, but I suspect they thought we were meeting via Teams. But the first part of our minutes deals with just the background. The second part details the briefing by Lieutenant General Masemola, as well as an update on the KwaNaTuKula Police Station, the Kleinvlei Police Station, the Elands Bay Police Station, and the KwaNokraba Police Station in Mossel Bay. Are there any changes or glaring omissions on pages 1 and 2 that members have noticed? Bartman?
Chair, even though I was not in this particular meeting, I just want to check. Member Plotter's name is listed as present and apology. And I just wanted to make sure that we get the respective attendance correct. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Member Plato, were you part of that meeting? I can't remember.
That's incorrect. I wasn't part of the meeting. That Deirdre Bartman is quite correct with the summary. I wasn't absent. The apologies seems to me more correct.
Perfect. Okay. It's amazing how I can't remember whether I saw Member Plato there, because it's not an easy face to miss. So it just shows you how much we've done in the last, 3 weeks. Okay, we're there now on page 3. I don't see any hands for any changes. We can then move to the resolutions. So we resolved to postpone the briefing by the Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety to a later date because we were running out of time. We also want to submit further resolutions and recommendations to Mr. Matthews by email. Mr. Matthews, can I ask whether any resolutions or recommendations were received on this meeting?
No, Chairperson.
Okay, the meeting then adjourned at 13:20. We seem to like finishing at 20 minutes after our scheduled end time. So I think we might have to extend the meeting time by 30 minutes, Mr. Matthews. Yeah, no objection from the members. Colleagues, I now put to you the minutes of our meeting on the 7th of October. Yes, Member Plato?
No, it's Member Christians.
Sorry, Member Christian.
Just a question with the weapon, the destruction of the weapons that we discussed.
Mm-hmm.
We said that we will, is it in there that we will visit the place, there's 1 or 2 places that they've mentioned, and we then said that we would visit one of those. Is it in there, Mr. Matthews, is it in there that you'll visit?
It was a resolution that we took in one of our previous meetings where we said
meetings.
Yeah, we said we're going to visit the Pretoria facility, and then we're also going to look at the facilities in the Western Cape.
Okay, so it's a previous one, it's not this one.
No, this one was a follow-up discussion on it.
Okay, thank you. Right.
Member Kama?
I move to adopt, Chair, with the amendments.
Which amendment would you like to make?
No, I think there was an amendment that was made on
the.
Yes. So I move to adopt.
We must get the photo out actually to see the attendance, because we took a really nice photo. Colleagues, can I have a seconder for the minutes? I suppose I can second it.
I second, Chair. I wasn't present there, but I was on Zoom, so on whatever I was in the meeting, so I will second.
You were virtual, yes, I remember.
Yeah, that's correct.
Seconded by member Ferlin Christians, Mr. Matthews. There's still one more, if I'm not mistaken, is there? There we go. This is the one, member Christians, that you were just referring to around the firearm destruction sites. So colleagues, this is the minutes of our meeting on the 30th of August, where we had a briefing from SAPS on firearm destruction. And our specific query or question was an update on whether the Western Cape can get its own firearm destruction facility like we used to have. The first page deals with the attendance, so if you can just check whether you were there. This deals with the formalities. Then we received a briefing from SAPS on the destruction sites, and the briefing basically said due to resource constraints, they only have a site in Pretoria, and the sites that they had in the Western Cape that belonged to SA Metal was not suitable, and the Cisco site was had security risks attached to it. And then also that the provincial SAPS does not have sufficient budgetary capacity to build and maintain its own firearm destruction site, but that the Pretoria facility is also privately owned. The resolutions of that meeting, members, was that we will request an in-camera meeting with the South African Police Service on matters related to the impact on the provincial resources to transport items to the Pretoria-based destruction site, the protocol to approve and transport these items, so which people are involved, how does it actually work, including the logistical route taken from the Western Cape to the Pretoria-based site. The committee also wanted to engage with experts within the firearm destruction industry to also give information on what international best practice and what local best practice there is. And then also perhaps give the committee a briefing on the scientific dynamics of the destruction process, because SAPS kept on telling us that it's a complex process, and we said we'd like to understand the complexities a little bit more so that we are able to, when we visit the site in Pretoria, go with an informed mind. The second resolution dealt with meeting the owners and conducting an on-site Mr. Matthews. I was about to call you Comrade Matthews. I don't know why. It's probably because I'm reading anti-capitalist literature. It should be on-site meeting of the Cisco site to view the security and compliance concerns. And then also we resolved to request the Western Cape Provincial Parliament to conduct research on international best practices for firearm and ammunition destruction and the cost associated with the process. And then we're going to conduct a study tour to the Silverton store, which is the national firearm and ammunition destruction site in Pretoria. Added to this, a visit to the South African Police Service's National Forensic Laboratory. Colleagues, may I propose an additional resolution 4.5 as well? May I propose that when we are in Gauteng, that we set up an engagement with the Gauteng Provincial Legislature's Committee on Community Safety to discuss these issues with them as well, and to find out what that legislature is doing around looking at firearm destruction, and B, the forensic science laboratory, and how they are conducting oversight over the backlog. I see fingers. I saw someone's thumb, but I don't know whose thumb it was. Sorry. Member Kama's thumb. Members, please may I ask for a mover to adopt the minutes
I so
as
move.
amended? Thank you, Member Plato. Member Bartman, are you raising your hand to second Member Plato's motion to move the minutes as amended?
Indeed, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I think those are all the documents that we had to consider and adopt. Mr. Matthews, not Member Matthews. Am I correct?
Yes, Chairperson, you are correct.
I don't think we should schedule community safety meetings on a Friday. It's been a long week.
Today, Chairperson.
It's been a long week. Colleagues, may I ask, are there any resolutions or actions that emanates from this meeting that you'd like us to note? Any recommendations? I see no hands. With that, I would like to then thank all of you for your dedicated service to the Standing Committee on Community Safety, and a very special thank you to Mr. Matthews and his team for leading us during this annual report process. It's always a very difficult time, but I think that we as a committee work very well together, and we are very well supported by Mr. Matthews, and I'm actually glad that we had him, especially with his sort of technical prowess. So this meeting is then adjourned, and we will then see all the members of the cultural affairs and sports element of this portfolio at 10 o'clock. And there's a separate link. Have a good weekend, Mr. Christians.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye, Akbar Kama.
Bye, Chair. See you shortly.
I'll see you shortly. I was going to say have a good weekend, but I'll see you shortly. Thank you, Candace and Siraj.